Welcome back to Plakeside Studios, everyone. Ryan here. It's been quite some time since I have incoherently rambled about annoyances in the guitar industry. I thought it's a good opportunity to do it now, since I'll be diving into some pretty work-intensive videos over the next few months, and this will act as kind of a good prelude to some of the things we'll be covering, and will avoid me going off on even more disjointed ramblings in the future, as a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today, admittedly, I kind of plan to cover in more succinct and separate videos, whether they include audio demonstrations or not, but they're all kind of intertwined, and I didn't want to leave certain topics half finished. So I thought, what the hell, let's just throw it all in a blender today and talk about some of the things that I've been paying attention to that concern not only our little sphere of YouTube, but the guitar industry and even outside technology industries as a whole. The common thread weaving all today's topics together is a bit of an unfortunate truth, but a harsh reality nonetheless. One that I've had to come face to face with more often as a content creator the last few years, but also as just a plain old consumer. And that is, review media is an absolute necessity. Always has been, probably always will be. Whether it's some jackass like me sitting in front of a camera and demonstrating how something works and giving my opinion on how it compares to other things, or just people leaving comments on a forum dedicated to that product, or feedback specifically to the manufacturer on Twitter, whatever it may be, that kind of stuff will never go away. It needs to happen because manufacturers and companies need to be held accountable for their bullshit. Now, I'm not going to sit here screaming through a megaphone to boycott these evil guitar corporations that make cool sounding stuff that makes our life more enjoyable, or occupy Nashville, wherever this makes sense for this conversation. I'm not going to be that guy, that tells you how to spend your money to a T. The point of my videos, as I've said 1,000 times, on top of providing some level of infotainment, is to arm you guys with the tools to make those decisions yourself. It's to give, to the best of my ability, objective analysis and comparisons where it makes sense, and then throw in my own, sprinkling of opinions and my own impressions based off of what I think are common use cases, or, what I have personally experienced using those kind of products. So I'm not saying these guitar corporations or any particular brand that I'll be bringing up is like evil and, you should never spend a single dime on any of their products. But at the same time, it is your money. This is stuff that we can ultimately live without. And at the end of the day, whether it's one guy building boutique amps in a spare bedroom, or a multi-million-dollar corporation mass manufacturing stuff overseas, these companies, whether it be a huge corporation or an LLC, need to be earning our money for this kind of stuff. And this, again, goes well beyond the guitar aspect of things. But we work for this stuff, and they need to be providing some level of value, some level of competition, or it's just a waste of time, energy, and money for everybody. The obvious issue here is no manufacturer or software developer is ever going to be honest enough to give the consumer the whole story themselves. No one's ever going to be selling, a $300 multi-effects unit and provide all the signal-to-noise graphs and, the frequency response curves, the distortion profile on these models, and then compare it to a competitor and say, well, they're selling it for like 30% less, and it actually sounds just as good, and these issues aren't really an issue, and yeah, do with that what you will. It's never going to happen, right? They're going to try to sell this thing as hard as possible and pretend either the competition doesn't exist, or find those very, very specific edge cases where they can really trounce all over them in some hyperbolic statement. This is, of course, where the review scene comes into play, whether it's about pickups for your electric guitar, or summer tires for your sports car, or an attachment for your favorite Ninja air fryer. There's a good chance there's a video or an article, or at least a Reddit post talking about this kind of stuff, and you'll be able to make a more informed purchase decision as a result. The dark side of that is, of course, there are reviewers who are more than content to take a paycheck to make, glorified advertisements, call it a review, yet parrot the exact same marketing bullshit that that brand came up with themselves and spin it as something that is impartial, even though it's their job to kind of keep those people in check. But more often than not, I think overall it has turned out to be a good thing. And there are certainly communities, this is a time I actually will use community, not ironically, outside of guitar playing and gear, especially on YouTube, that have done a lot of these good things. And this little ecosphere here can absolutely take some lessons, because as far as objectivity and holding manufacturers and companies accountable goes, we are doing a piss poor job when it comes to guitar gear. Here's just one of the recent examples that inspired today's video, in which some tech reviewers helped expose the absolutely scummy business practices of a graphics card board partner. And being at about 300,000 subscribers, this group was kind of on the smaller side of the more popular tech channels on YouTube. It still destroys my subscriber count, but relatively speaking, not someone that I think is going to, change the course of outside companies based on their review status, but still large enough to, receive hardware samples and be able to meet embargo dates and make the kind of higher production reviews you would associate with, more expensive channels. What they ultimately revealed in their interactions with this PR team made the slimiest of used car salesmen look honorable by comparison. Keep in mind, this was in a very specific region that's going to have some societal and cultural norm differences than what we're used to, and doesn't necessarily reflect the whole company, certainly not all the, AIBs and graphics card manufacturers. But in this instance, the underhanded, under the table kind of, we're going to give you a free product for a few weeks, make us look good expectation was just blown out of the water. They were upset that this tech review group was comparing their product to a direct competitor. Kind of what you do in hardware tests, or really any thorough review for that matter. They were upset that it just so happened that they placed their most favorable benchmark, the thing that made their product look the best, towards the end of the video instead of showing it early on. And for at least one of their products, the company was upset that this tech reviewer did not have a video ready and out on the day, on the hour that the embargo lifted, and instead decided to cover something else, which is totally within their right to do so. There's no guarantee that just because you have a product and you're reviewing it means that, oh, well, yeah, absolutely have to have a video ready. There's nothing in any negotiation or agreement that says that. A lot of people race to do that. You see it all the time with a new phone release, or, a guitar amp that you'll see everybody on YouTube magically upload the same hour because the embargo just lifted. That's why. I don't hit embargoes ever, and it's not a big deal. It's fine. There's never been any issue with, say, Mercurial when I put out a video 2 hours after embargo list, because I upload at 12 p.m. That's just the deal. Never any issue. But for this company, it was very much a under the table, nudge, nudge, hey, we're going to keep giving you free stuff and you make us look good, and we'll, keep you making your livelihood this way. Everyone wins. Maddening. This is the kind of shit you don't see go on behind the scenes, and I guarantee you it happens in the guitar space. It's the same symptoms, it's the same kind of marketing speak, and it really needs to be talked about more. Oftentimes, there's very much an attitude oozing from these kind of companies, especially towards those that review their products, that makes it feel like they think they own you. At best, you're in an oppressive partnership, and it's kind of gross. And it's like they think, well, we made the thing, so you owe us. You wouldn't have a job, you wouldn't have a life without us. So you have to say good stuff, and don't leave anything negative on our Facebook page, even if it's objectively true, or we'll ban you. Screw you, dude. We don't owe you anything. And to be fair, they don't owe us anything either. They don't owe any major reviewer or anybody a free sample before embargo. They don't. It's in their best interest. It's free advertisement a lot of the times when it is good and they're that confident, but it is a gamble. So if I say something mean about, a software company and they don't like it, they don't want to send me free products anymore, that's totally fine. That's their decision. I respect it. I don't feel slighted in the least. I'll go buy it if I want to see it, if I want to review it. That's totally cool. But don't act like this isn't a problem that you created. Were it not for companies withholding a lot of that information that I know they have, then the jobs of someone like, Steve Burke from Gamers Nexus wouldn't need to exist. And so to give potential buyers the full story, they have to go back and do all this data logging and stress testing and present it in a video format, and they get a lot of financial support as a result. But this is very much something the manufacturers could do. they made their bed. They need to lie in it at this point. Now, I know there's plenty of whiny reviewers out there that think they deserve a free code or free product just because they think they're going to make a video on it, and I don't agree with that either. But overwhelmingly, this is a problem that companies cause themselves, and then the communities that revolve around those things have to come in and pick up the pieces and fill out the rest of the story, which is why you have your Steve Burks. It's why you have your Jim Lills, which brings me perfectly to the next topic. If you've not seen Jim Lill's electric guitar or amplifier or cabinet videos, just pause this right now or exit out of it completely. I won't be mad in the least. Go watch his channel now. Donate if you like what he's doing, because I certainly applaud his efforts. It's absolutely insane what he's gone through to do some of these tests, and it's the kind of thing that I thought would honestly never happen, just because of how much effort and how many variables there are to these kind of things. It was over 4 years ago at this point that I made a video talking about why I never thought I would see a conclusion to this whole tone wood debate, because yeah, there are some embarrassingly bad comparison videos that I think anybody with half a brain cell could pick apart. But when it comes to the more nuanced stuff, there are so many variables to isolate. You have to go about it in a scientific manner to have everything else be the same, but only one variable at a time, or at least a combination of variables to where you can, extrapolate and figure out, well, what contribution is this making? And if it is making something, will it even matter? I postulated that based on my own experience, if you had everything else set up exactly the same, whatever contribution is there in an electric guitar signal chain is probably going to be really easy to compensate for, or may not be noticeable at all between different guitars. And at the most, probably isn't even going to be as significant as like the drift that some components show. But at the end of the day, I didn't really care. This man is a mad lad. He cared a lot and ended up disproving his own testing methodology and showing a couple huge factors that people might attribute to tone wood that have nothing to do with that, like pickup height, like the pressure of his fretting hand and how hard he's hitting the string and all sorts of things. Go watch the videos once again if you've not seen them yet. But stuff like his air guitar test with no wood, his sustain test, standing on top of a guitar on a wood dresser that would resonate, his tackle box amplifier or his styrofoam cabinet. This is the kind of stuff we need more of in this godforsaken corner of YouTube and, guitar discussion in general, because yes, there's more to be done. Absolutely. I don't think his work has nailed every aspect of this conversation or comparison, but geez, he's just one guy, and for what he's been able to accomplish, it's more than I have. I've showed through multiple videos, the most important things for me after you get, a comparable cabinet sound are pre and post EQ. If you've got a good distortion texture, a good circuit, you can kind of make different amps sound mostly the same and compensate for differences between guitar. Kind of tone matched all my amps to each other in that one video. So none of this is particularly shocking to me, but it's so nice to finally see someone hold a lot of the claims accountable, even though he's not going after it and, some like, well, I'm out to destroy the narrative kind of thing. It's just, well, here's what I found and I hope you can make a better decision on it. I think his videos really help to shine a light on this kind of unspoken, arguably nefarious nature of a lot of these companies that prey on the uneducated and those that are not technically proficient but are interested in their products. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I am uneducated and not proficient in most of the things I buy. If I buy a new set of silverware, I'm just going to trust that it holds up as long as it says it's going to. I'm not going to spend 2 hours researching that on the internet. I'm not going to spend 2 hours researching whether the pair of pants or shoes I buy is exactly what, I make some assumptions and trust some things. And you shouldn't have to do that for everything. That's just the nature of it, but they're going to use that to their advantage. So when, maybe an amplifier company out of the UK says, well, we've got this 2x12 and it's, you can't clone this. You can't reverse engineer this. The dimensions, the material, the construction method, you'll never get this sound. You have to buy this cabinet brand new, to get this tone. And then Jim comes in with fucking styrofoam and builds a cab out of the same dimensions and it sounds like identical on recording. Within margin of error between different speakers or the microphone placement, and certainly not enough to really care about too much. In fact, another cabinet rolling off the line that day could have sounded more different just because of the way stuff works. So you see a test like that and you hear those results, and to me, I was thinking to myself, well, one, a lot of these manufacturers are probably differentiating their products and advertising stuff based on things that don't even matter. And two, they probably know it doesn't matter, and they're just taking advantage of the situation because no one else bothered to check or even thought that was an option. So you can kind of come away from all of this like super cynical and just like screw everything, like everything I touch that I start off liking because it's an escape from real life ends up turning into real life. You try to get away from the price gouging and the nonsense of everything else, and then it turns out the hobby that you like is just as full of it, if not worse, because everyone's trying to sell you something and they're trying to take advantage of that situation. And admittedly, I do feel a lot of that myself. It's like with everything that has to do with entertainment at all, you're trying to kind of check out of real life, not have to think about things so much, trying to get away from all this negativity. And then it kind of follows you back in where they're taking advantage of you in a state where you just want to not think about things. So you just say, whatever, here's $10 extra for that video game. I don't care. All right, fine. I have to pay this much to get this sound that I want so I can enjoy this better. Fine, whatever. Here's another $100. Oh, wait, that didn't even matter. That's just marketing speak. So it can kind of, jade you after a while. But my ultimate goal with the videos I make, and hopefully for what a lot of people do in this platform, is constructive criticism. And there is a difference. A lot of what I'm doing right now is just bitching and moaning and pointing out the flaws in things. But whether it's Jim Lilll comparing homemade cabinets, or the Axe-Fx forum group demonstrating some low-end accuracy issues on the rectifier models, and then they get updated in the next firmware, and every amp gets a whole new rollout of transformer algorithm updates, which is crazy. I can't believe that actually happened. That's the kind of actionable constructive criticism we need more of from reviewers, from the community, period. Instead of just saying, well, this sucks, I don't like this. It's like, well, why? If you're not going to say why, if you're not going to throw anything valuable, why even waste your time? I get the dumbest comments on YouTube. You know how that works. But so many people I've seen leave comments saying like, oh, you're talking too much in this video. Full stop. That's it. Well, that means nothing to me. It's a review, number one. I didn't just say no talking demonstration. Constructive criticism for me, again, to turn the lens onto me, would be something like, I don't think this part of the discussion was value added. I would prefer instead to see this range of tones, or if you had expanded upon this part and I found this valuable, do more of that. That's actionable. That's something, oh, I can do something with that. Okay, yeah. And I can, either agree or disagree. Same way with the Fractal team could have said, go pound sand. I think the transformer stuff sounds fine and the low end and the rectifier is good, but they obviously agreed and it made everyone's product better. They didn't have to do that, but that's the kind of stuff that, once again, we need more of. The unfortunate truth is a lot of these software developers and hardware manufacturers, though, just aren't going to be receptive to constructive criticism. And sometimes it is a factor of just the size and how much red tape you got to go through to get to someone that it would actually make a difference. But a lot of smaller companies too, they just, you're a little pissant. You don't, it doesn't mean anything. Even if it's objective truth and it's repeatable and you have, numbers and figures behind it and you're just trying to help and say, hey, this product can be improved in this way. I dare you to go on the Kemper forums and post something that makes the Kemper out to be the worst of the group. If you're comparing it to a quad cortex or maybe amplitude tone X and a real amplifier that you capture, and you show, hey, I found this problem, it's repeatable, it's actually a problem, can we fix it, can we look into that? I don't think you're going to get the warm reception that you would on some other product forums. That's all I would say about that. So we have work to do on all sides of the conversation here. So to finally close the book on this for now, I guess this video is intended to do a few things. One of which is to kind of give you a peek into my mindset on some future reviews and shootouts, why I'm conducting them the way I am, why maybe I'm showing things I am and I'm not showing things I'm not. Because, if you see a pedal like this, I'm not trying to sell you something. I want to talk about it and, of course, have fun with it. That is half the point of this kind of stuff. but it's also not that hard to tell you, hey, I've got this kind of as a review sample. I did pay for it out of my own pocket. Here's what I like about it. Here's what I don't. I think you should not support this and support that. It's really that simple if reviewers would just make it that simple. But number two, it's also to, I guess, if you want an actionable thing to come out of this, is to challenge my fellow content creators to hold people accountable, hold this stuff to a standard, and quit just accepting everything for the way it is. I'm not saying nitpick it apart because, oh, this color is bad, or I don't like this material. I'm saying real actionable stuff, because I know some of you are playing exactly by the company's rules that gave you those review samples or software codes. And that's all fine and good if you feel good about just being an advertisement, basically. But if you have thoughts and you actually care about the kind of stuff that we're talking about, the stuff that we do, and you think we deserve better, like I think we do, then say what you have to say. Don't be afraid to say, well, I don't think this is acceptable, or I don't like having to pay for this on the side, or here's something I found that's not as good as the competitors. Because until everyone starts doing that, until people start supporting each other like they are in some other YouTube spaces when these companies act like psychopaths, nothing is going to get better. And it's doing a disservice to the people who are coming to us to make an informed decision, to say, I'm tight on money, but I want to do this. I want to get better at this instrument, or I want to enjoy this better. And how should I spend it? And, you're up there puppeting for a company essentially, and not adding anything that they couldn't have found out through a product page, but then disguising it as it were, a personal recommendation. And I just have a big problem with that. Moreover, I would challenge you guys to challenge yourselves, challenge us idiots making these videos, especially. You all are just as capable of doing what we do, whether you want to go for the full-blown video production route or just word of mouth with friends. Have something thoughtful to say and think about your purchases instead of just blindly accepting everything. That's the main issue driving all of this, is that, oh, well, it's the way it's always been, and that's fine. Oh, we'll just trust that the crystal lattices line up this way, and that this guy understands way more about it than I ever could. So, here's $10,000, and I feel good about it now. Screw that. That's just not the way it needs to be, and it's been proven time and time again in spaces outside of this. And I feel like people like Mr. Lilll have only scratched the surface on that. And we do have some beacons of light in the industry, as I've alluded to. But I'm also more than a little sick of companies trying to sell me the same thing over and over in different makeup and pretending it's a revolution. I hope you guys are too, because I want to keep calling it out when I see it. So that was way longer than I wanted it to be. But hopefully, once again, this will kind of condense all this stuff that I've been thinking about into one place, and give you some context for the way I'll be running the channel over the next several videos. Thank you so much if you stuck to this. Again, go watch some of those productive people out there that I mentioned earlier, and we will see you next time. Bye.